All right, this thing on. Check, 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 check. All right. All right, it is today, the 10th of June, and things are starting to cash up. Finally, the military is going to spend their 2.5% when a spectacular Chatham House speech by Mark Rutte, the former Prime Minister of Holland and the head of NATO. He gave a speech, alarming speech, and I'm already pre-alarmed. I've been thinking, oh, things are toning down, and he basically said, we only make 1/4 of the ammunition of what Russia does, and they have 20 times the economy. He's just talking about Europe and America and Canada combined. That's all he's saying. He's like, yeah, we only make 25%. He said, and they're stockpiling. They're not using it all. So alarmed I was. I recommend you go or Google his speech at Chatham House when he just spent at the head of NATO at Chatham House in London. Mark Rutte, R-U-T-T-E. So let's start with a prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Prayer for peace. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. When there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. I like that prayer. I say, love that prayer. It's awesome. It's like a Stoic's wet dream. Speaking of Stoics, Mark Rutte. 2 viral moments he had when he was Prime Minister. 1, he spilled coffee. He's a heavy coffee drinker, I hear. He spilled coffee while he was entering through the metal detectors in Parliament. And unbeknownst to him, he was being filmed. And he quickly grabbed the mop, and he's Prime Minister. And they're all like, oh, no, here, I'll get it. He's like, no. He cleans it up really, really fast. Very, very well. Obviously well-versed in the mopping and the cleaning. And anyone who in the military admired the quality of his mopping. Anyone who got in any trouble in the military admired that he had done it. He wasn't all thumbs. And he cleaned it all up, wiped it all up, done. And walked away as if nothing happened. And everyone was like, huh. 2, he went viral because he snapped on an individual who got in his way when he was going to his cafe. See, the guy apparently has a few things he went to. His cafe, his home in The Hague, and work. And this person disrupted his habit. And later he apologized. He said, I'm sorry for snapping at you. And it wasn't a real big snap. But it was alarming because he's like, la, la, la. He just loses it on the guy. He had an appointment with coffee. And this person was in his way. And he says, he's always gave time for people. So everyone was like, holy crap, where did this come from? He says later, he's like, well, I'm sorry. I have my routine, and this individual was breaking my routine. King of the Stoics. Like the only thing every weekend, I don't think he has time for it anymore, but he went and taught at a grammar school while he was Prime Minister, kind of person that the whole country can get behind and respect. Just a worker. It's getting warm in here already. I hope you can't hear that fan. So we have 7 minutes left to the start of the wonderful, wonderful world of question period. Are we going to have Mark Carney there? Is he going to hear? I don't know. Here's some paintings. The lights are off, and David's not home. Uh-oh, we have a problem here, Houston. So, as one who follows habits, likes my habits as the same as him, keeps me happy. I deep respect when he snapped on this guy. You can go check out these viral moments. They're awesome. They're both really awesome, and they're both very like plain. Holland is similar to Canada in a lot of ways, I realized, because their parliament is kind of like PG, you know? Yes, they got some free radicals there, but they don't curse, they don't swear, they're not calling each other demonstrable names. We are getting it a little bit more here, but it's on the peripheral. I think Pierre was leaning that way, and he'll be back. Stoke up that a little bit redder. Maybe he'll be back, maybe not. There's been talk, actually. National Post, which is an article, a paper I read. Oh, coffee. Coffee makes the world spin. It's a little bit cold, though. Took too long to get. Is there anyone here? Hey, I'm taking myself again. Yay! I know I got the board up. All right. It's very PG. So basically, though, this National Post is saying, is it time to move on from Pierre's leadership? Like, he did lose his seat. The Conservatives seem rudderless right now. I think they need a new direction, to be quite honest. The woke message, the woke mind, like the Democrats, they don't know what the heck they're doing. It's still Trump bad. And remember what it was he put the Roe v. Wade down to the states, kicked it down to the states, and they said, oh, abortion will be horrible, and they made all this big hoopla, and it looks like abortions are up in America. He said they skipped the real law. It's a state jurisdiction, and a lot of people complained about it. If you were super religious, they're like, oh no, what do you mean the abortions are up? Well, the states decided, and that's the rule. They skipped that. The proper order of operations, right? Like bed maths, right? If you do the wrong order in math, it doesn't come out the same answer. Sometimes you can do it another way. I got in trouble a couple times for not doing it the way that they taught. But I came up with the same answer. I just did it a different way. It's the opposite. Anyway, I got in a big argument, and he's like, that's it, points off. I'm like, what, for arguing with you? Anyway, sorry. I digress. Master. So he definitely, over in the Prime Minister, he has scooped most of the Conservative talking points, because that's why the Liberals lead. Because they can lean left, they can lean right. It's opposite for you. They can lead right, they can lead left. I don't know why it's a flip. So that's why they've been the predominant party for the last century. And right now he's leaning right. I think he's leaning a little bit too far right, to be honest. But it's for he believes what is for the will of the people. I don't think it's Mark Carney's his perfect position, but he's leading the way, you know what I mean, to keep down. But I think he has grace till next February, according to polling. I think next February he can do what he wants till next February, as long as he starts getting things done and he doesn't say anything woke. He doesn't push that agenda, which, good or bad or ugly, that agenda no one wants to hear it from our politicians anymore. They're like, how do we get the cows working, right? How do we get the masses homes and the masses happy lives again? Like, this is get them out of the hair of society and get people working. The youth, the bedraggled people with neck tattoos and angry, get them working, get them sweating, get them in homes. This is like the basic reason for government, I believe, to help do things that people can't do, and come in when capitalism starts failing. And capitalism is failing on the housing, right? I believe it's the government's fault. They brought in too many people, and they didn't check to make sure down the pipe that they had enough schools, hospitals, and housing for these people. They didn't do these things. They thought, hey, it's cheaper just to bring people in than to breed them. And maybe, yeah, fine, whatever. But they made a big mistake. And that's the reason why Mark Carney is going far right. But I don't believe it's required. All that's required is just put $100 billion into building homes. Like, literally fork out money to the low class, working class, for once, not to just get another company to give them a grant or a loan that took them 3 years to fill out. That's what I believe. I think that they're going to do all these other things first, which is going to give money to rich people, wealthy businesses, investor class. They're going to do that, and next February there will be nothing done in the housing file because I don't think I personally believe the plan won't work. And by next February, that's when it's all over. All the bets will be off, and they'll have to put money. They'll be forced, kicking and screaming, to do that. But at the same time, AI will be stealing wealthy white-collar jobs. By then, most likely, it'll be becoming a major problem. It'll be seen as a problem. And then they'll probably give money to the wealthy people, not the horrible labor class. That's my opinion. I went to Holland, and it was horribly done. 2 o'clock. Woo! All right, we're back. I went to Holland, and they were like, well, we do cobblestone roads because it keeps people working, keeps labor, and it looked nice, and they cleaned them at night and everything like that. It was like, what's the problem? This is a good thing, right? They have the Poundbury, which is a beautiful, King Charles III, his idea, Poundbury, I recommend you Google it up. Poundbury is a wonderful, wonderful idea of a town where the center of town is where the festivals are, not parks everywhere. No. Suburbia where there's no reason to go, zero reason to go unless you live there. And that's like the wealthy suburbites. We'll call it that. And then in the downtown area where there's the restaurants and the people that live downtown, like the downtown people with neck tattoos and earrings and blue hair and wonderful things like that, live there. And the apartments are cheaper for them because they don't get paid as much being a service worker. But when you don't have a service worker, or you have a service worker that's overly stressed, your service goes down, the crime goes up, you have tents in the downtown areas, and it just does, the whole society doesn't work. But if you pay the person enough to live a decent life, to be able to use the train system or this and that, or go on a weekend 3-day adventure, these things, the whole society would start. You don't have to police. You don't have to divide and all these wonderful things as much. As I digress, it's just the two of us, just the three of us. We can make it if we try, just the three of us, you and I.
11 innocent people were taken from us by this horrific act of violence that occurred as Filipino Canadians gathered to proudly celebrate their history, culture, and achievements. To the loved ones of the victims, all who were affected, and the entire Filipino Canadian community, our nation stands with you in this time of unspeakable grief and sorrow. Much has been said about the profound resilience and faith of the Filipino people. While that is truly the case, we must ensure that they get the resources and justice they need and deserve. In the wake of this tragedy, let us come together, not just to recover, but to forge a stronger and more united country where everyone is safe, supported, and cherished.
I'm going to say a quick note on the Filipino society. They come here, they don't push their societal here. A lot of them in service work. They're like the perfect. I don't want to say this, but like they're a very excellent immigrant. They come and they blend in very well. And there's been This is the only you ever hear about this, like something horrible against the community. And praise be to Filipinos. Wonderful Manila.
Honorable member for Davenport.
Davenport, the riding with the largest number of Portuguese Canadians. I'm proud to rise in this House today to celebrate Portugal Day in Canada and to celebrate June as Portugal Heritage Month. It has been 72 years since the first group of Portuguese immigrants arrived at Pier 21 in Halifax. Today, Portuguese Canadians are almost 500,000 strong, representing one of the largest Portuguese diasporas in the world. Living in communities across our fair country, Portuguese Canadians are leaders in every single sector sector, business, politics, science, sports, arts, healthcare, construction, and so much more. Through their perseverance and hard work, they have enriched Canadian society and have transformed Canada into a stronger and better country. So to all members of this House and to all Canadians, I invite you to join in the celebrations today and every day this month, whether it's by listening to fado, drinking vino verde, eating a bifana, pastéis de nata. Feliz Dia de Portugal e Feliz Mês de Portugal. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi, Grand Lake.
Mr. Speaker, our political family in New Brunswick suffered a loss with the passing of Judy Scott O'Brien of Durham Bridge. The daughter of the late Anita and Darrell Scott, she is survived by her husband Mike O'Brien, her brother Don, and his wife Joyce, as well as nieces and nephews. Originally from Edmundston, Judy was a key resource for Premiers Richard Hatfield and Bernard Lord. While I did not know her personally, she is a very close friend of my family, and I'm aware of her legend. Judy was colorful, she was fiercely loyal, and she was a hard worker. She kept and loved horses. Judy loved politics, but also enjoyed her peaceful home in Durham Bridge and her trips to St. Martin with Michael. Please join me in offering condolences to the family and many friends of Judy Scott O'Brien.
The Honourable Member for Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, as it is my first time rising in this Parliament, I would like to take the opportunity to express my appreciation and thanks to the people of Port Coquitlam and Coquitlam for electing me to a fourth term in this place. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased about an important initiative in British Columbia in the Lower Mainland to save our local news. Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Burnaby, New Westminster, Enmore, and Belcarra lost local news coverage when Glacier Media shuttered their papers. People no longer know what's happening in their council chambers, read news about their Little League teams, or learn about that new cookie shop in their downtowns. Last week, I learned about the Save Our Local News campaign. Headed by former local reporters Janice Clue, Camelia Naylor, Mario Bartel, and Teresa McManus, they will create a new, reliable news outlet with the support of Unifor. Mr. Speaker, please join me to save our local news. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Acadie-Annapolis.
Mr. Speaker, it's an incredible honour for me to rise today in this 45th Parliament as elected member for the extraordinary riding of Acadie-Annapolis. I want to sincerely thank the residents of Acadie-Annapolis for once again placing their trust in me to be their voice in Ottawa. Mr. Speaker, this past week has been very difficult for me personally and for my family. In the span of just a few days, I've had to say goodbye to 3 people who were incredibly close to my heart. My beloved mother-in-law, Ella Muse, a woman of grace, care, and warmth, whose gentle spirit touched everyone that she met. She was an important part of my life for over 40 years. My wife, Anne, will dearly miss her mom, and my 2 boys, their beloved Grandmère. Braden Muse, my cousin's son, only 18, full of potential, tragically taken too soon. He'll be missed dearly by his friends and family. Blair
Boudreau, a giant in our Acadian community, a proud, passionate, and tireless defender of our language, culture, and history. He leaves behind a profound and enduring legacy.
Eternal, Mr. Speaker, may we honor them by living with the same love, strength, and purpose that they brought to this world. May they rest in peace.
The Honourable Member for Merc-Aurel-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, June 10th is Portugal Day, and Portuguese people all around the world are celebrating it. It's a sacred moment when we honour the soul of our nation, embodied by the great poet Luís de Camões, whose epic poem passionately recounts the history and indomitable spirit of the Portuguese people. Portuguese Canadians are known for their hard work, family solidarity, and unwavering love of our roots. It's these values that have enabled us to overcome challenges and contribute strongly to the fabric of this country. Happy Portugal Day.
The other weekend, I had the honour of kicking off the cricket season with SOCA, the Southern Ontario Cricket Association. Founded in 1883 under the leadership of Praveen, Dr. Harry, President Gary, and Vice President Karthik, SOCA has grown into a community of 79 teams. Today, SOCA runs leagues for women, children, and seniors, creating a truly inclusive cricket community. In the Waterloo region, SOCA serves 8,000 members where they find friendship, purpose, and pride. Through sport, they're growing leaders, role models, and stronger communities. Praveen Sharma has dedicated over 31 years growing this organization. Praveen has been the backbone of local cricket running programs long before it had the visibility it enjoys today. Mayor Barry has been tremendous, supporting over the years. His advocacy at the municipal level has played a key role in helping the league thrive in our Waterloo region. This is exactly the kind of community building I'm very proud to support. I wish you a very successful season.
The honourable member for Humber River Black Creek.
Speaker, Jimmy Lai, a 77-year-old pro-democracy advocate and journalist, stands for values cherished by Canadians, media freedom, and the rule of law. Despite his age and health issues, Mr. Lai remains imprisoned in torturous condition under Hong Kong's repressive national security law, the provisions of which are inconsistent with international human rights law. On March 2024, the Subcommittee on International Human Rights issued a news release calling for the release of Jimmy Lai and expressed their solidarity with everyone advocating for freedom and justice in Hong Kong, echoing that Jimmy Lai stood up for truth and for his fellow Hong Kongers, and now we must stand up for him. Parliament has a proud tradition of supporting such individuals, as shown in 2023 when it granted honorary Canadian citizenship to Russian dissident Vladimir Murza. I now call upon the Government of Canada to make Jimmy Lee be made an honorary citizen of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Judy, this MP, Judy at a escrow. Hey, Google, that's enough, please. Hey, Google, that's enough, please. Jeez. I thought it was a reincarnation here. I thought I went back in time, was watching some old footage. It was the Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher. Judy A. Escrow, which is fun to say. Just say it once or twice. Judy Escrow is one of the Liberal MPs. It's pretty damn good. And was had a little bit of apparently rumored to have a couple words with the former Prime Minister. Is one of the MPs you don't hear much from, but I think going forward we're going to, as she's been pretty good. She's steady and never really more conservative leading of the Liberals. Definitely a Liberal, but more right-leaning of them. So that's why I assume we'll see more of her going forward. And Jimmy Lai, this is an outstanding thing. This guy had the Daily Apple. I read his papers when Hong Kong was hitting the fan. And they just arrested him. He was 72. They arrested him, put him in the slammer, and basically threw away, the key. He had a newspaper. And they just don't like that. And when Hong Kong got just taken over, even though they signed an agreement with the United Kingdom, no one said nothing. The world just was like, oh, And I'm not against China. As anyone read my article yesterday, if you did, China's a great, brilliant country. But we do have to push back when they do things wrong. Just like people push back when America did things wrong, like converting children to the other sex without parents' advice. These things. We all sometimes do things wrong, and the world should condemn it and not, blow it over what it is. Anyway, Judy A. Escrow, we'll hear more from her.
Has a proud tradition of supporting such individuals, as shown in 2023 when it granted honorary Canadian citizenship to Russian dissident Vladimir Murza. I now call upon the Government of Canada to make Jimmy Lee be made an honorary citizen of Canada. Thank you.
Cooperation historically found in agricultural communities across Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge today's scathing Auditor General's report on the current and future use of office space. The report noted that the Liberals promised to reduce office space by 50%, along with $1.1 billion over 10 years to do so. However, the Auditor General found that the office space reduction will only be 33%, and the result shows the absolute failure on the Liberals to get the housing built
After years of flashy announcements, and all they have are endless broken promises. The report promises that it takes 6 to 8 years to dispose of surplus buildings, a completely unacceptable and costly timeline. Mr. Speaker, as millions of Canadians are struggling to find affordable housing, this latest report confirms just how out of touch and unhelpful this same old Liberal government has been. Thank you.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, this week marks the 100th anniversary of the founding of the United Church of Canada, established by an Act of Parliament exactly 100 years ago today. In my riding of Winnipeg South Centre, several United Church congregations, including Yonge, Augustine, Fort Garry, Westminster, Harrow, and Crescent Fort Rouge, gathered this past weekend for a special service of celebration and thanksgiving. I want to thank Reverend Mark Whitehead and all of those who helped to organize this meaningful gathering at Crescent Fort Rouge. For a century, Mr. Speaker, the United Church has stood alongside communities across Canada, not only as a spiritual home to many, but also as a place of welcome, community, and support, offering a wide range of programming and services to residents of all backgrounds. On this special anniversary, I want to extend my congratulations and gratitude to the United Church of Canada for 100 years of ministry, leadership, and hope, all in service of community. Thank you.
The honourable member for Algonquin-Renfrew, Pembroke.
The Auditor General's investigation into the Liberals' purchase of the F-35 fighter jets is shocking. It's over budget and behind schedule. Costs are up 50%. The new facilities to house the jets won't be completed until 2031. That is 3 years too late, forcing taxpayers to spend even more money on temporary hangars. The investigation also confirmed that we have known since 2018. We don't have enough pilots. Canada was once the pilot training ground for the Commonwealth during World War II. Thanks to these Liberals, we send our recruits to Italy to learn to fly. This lost Liberal decade has left Canadians unsafe and insecure in an increasingly dangerous world. These out-of-control costs, repeated construction delays, and lack of staff threaten to delay the replacement of the fighter jets. Now, they want billions more to waste. Under these Liberals, Canadians are paying so much while getting so little in return.
The honourable member for Brossard-Saint-Lambert. Mr. Speaker, today, wherever people of Portuguese descent gather, they celebrate Portugal Day, Camões Day, and Portuguese Communities Day. What we celebrate on this day is, above all, what has shaped Portuguese culture over the centuries. Not a military feat, not a conquest, not even the discoveries. We celebrate cartography and azulejos, the symbiotic relationship with the oceans, and the delicious use of its treasures. Portuguese culture, well represented by natas, is also a rich and renowned literature from Camões to Fernando Pessoa, from Essa de Queiroz to José Saramago, fado, which moves us from cradle to grave, but it's also delicious, simple cuisine enhanced by the spices discovered in the 16th century and the judicious use of sea salt. Finally, being Portuguese, whether in Portugal or in the diaspora, means experiencing all these facets without too much homesickness. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes.
Speaker, today's Auditor General's report is another damning indictment that the Liberals have lost control on their rampant spending on consultants. GC Strategies, the consulting firm with links to ArriveScam, they cut 106 service contracts worth $92.7 million. This is the same company found in contempt of Parliament for refusing to answer questions, and they're called to this very House to answer those questions. But the scandal, of course, compounds from there. The AG found that in a third of the contracts awarded, there was no evidence the consultants had the required experience. Massive security clearance failures failed to prove that the fees paid did not match market rates, and the most damning of all, endless reams of evidence that the work wasn't even completed.
Unreal.
In true Liberal fashion, of course, Trudeau ministers responsible for ArriveScam, they actually got promoted. Yes. It's clear, Speaker, with decisions like this, the Liberals have no plan to get taxpayers' money back on this blatant corruption.
The honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to celebrate the 2025 graduating class from the University of Calgary. The last of this convocation, 7,000 graduates across the stage today. Graduates like Austin Friesen, who just received his MBA, come from across degree programs and disciplines. Graduating from university is an enormous accomplishment. Grads are fortunate to have attended Canada's entrepreneurial university, one of our city's gems. The education and friendships they made along the way will serve them well. Sometimes young universities struggle to have their reputation keep up with their accomplishments, so I'd like to inform the House on just a few. Today, in dollar terms, the hardworking students, faculty, and staff at the U of C do about as much research as Queen's, Western, and TMU combined. All great universities in their own right. The university has among the highest student satisfaction scores. Its stroke protocol saves lives globally, and more startups have come out of the U of C over the past 5 years than any other Canadian university. Congratulations to all of the graduates. Your community is proud of you. You did it.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Speaker, today the Auditor General released a scathing audit on the top Arise scam fraudster GC Strategies. This two-person basement dwelling company feasted on $64 million taxpayer dollars. This was a direct gift from the Liberal government who allowed basic procurement rules to be completely ignored over the last 10 years. Canadians still don't know who did the work, what was done, if they were qualified, if they had security clearances. This is complete government incompetence. The ask is simple. When will taxpayers get their money back?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Auditor General for his question. I thank the Auditor General for his service. I note that GC Strategy has been prohibited from government contracts for 7 years, and it's that standard, the minimum. As a member of Canada's new government and a new member of Parliament, we will uphold higher standards, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, shockingly, the very same Liberal ministers who had their fingerprints all over the Arise scam are still in cabinet today. Right. Namely, the Jobs Minister, the U.S. Trade Minister, and his Foreign Affairs Minister. Their lack of ministerial responsibility is both negligent and inexcusable. The fraudulent payment of $64 million isn't just about reckless spending. It's a total waste of taxpayer dollars and a betrayal of Canadians who are living through a cost of living crisis. So I ask the Prime Minister again, when will taxpayers get their money back?
That should be the Conservatives' bread and butter right there.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the members opposite, for supporting the Making Life More Affordable Act to get taxpayer dollars back to Canadians. And commit. This government is committed. This new government is committed to making the best use of all taxpayers' dollars.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General just slammed these Liberals in her report this morning and said what we've known all along. The Liberals have broken our military. Today's F-35 report criticized the Liberals for misleading cost projections that are 50% higher by over $14 billion, ongoing construction delays for necessary infrastructure, ignoring the severe pilot and mechanic shortage, and implementing weak oversight mechanisms. The ministers who are responsible for this debacle are still sitting in here. Will the Prime Minister hold them accountable for this mess?
Here. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to know if the member opposite holds himself accountable for letting military spending fall below 1%. That's right. When the Conservative are in government. This government has doubled military spending in cash terms. We're meeting our NATO obligations this year, leading from the front.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake.
Prime Minister, we actually delivered for our military. We bought brand new 5 CF-18 Flowmaster helicopters, new Hertz, new Leopard tanks, new Chinook helicopters we delivered. Instead, what we got here is an Auditor General report reference her 2018 report on Canada's fighter jets. That report said the biggest obstacle to meeting operational requirements was a shortage of fighter pilots and technicians. Over the last Liberal decade, the Liberals have worsened this capability gap through mismanagement and completely ignoring the Auditor General's recommendations. So the question is, the Foreign Minister who was responsible for the military back in 2018 is still in his cabinet. Why? Good question.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was proud to stand yesterday with the Minister of National Defence, the Chief of the Defence Force, and announce the largest increase in military expenditure in decades. Building our military strong, building our military with Canadian technology, Canadian jobs, Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum. That's what the review of the F-35 is about. That's what the future of this country is about.
Now here is some line of questionings that is conserved. Both of them were very good. I got to admit. Now let's see, 30.
The Auditor General severely has criticized the government's management of the F-35 fighter purchase. It's now 50% over budget, $30 billion in costs. There are delays in construction, a lack of personnel, and insufficient oversight are threatening this project, and Canadians are paying the price. And the Prime Minister seems to have forgotten to mention that the new money announced yesterday is just to pay these cost overruns. He promoted the former Defence Minister. Why? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, one of the first measures that I took was a review of the F-35 contract. Because we have to do what's right for Canadians, what's right for Canada, what's right for our security, and we will report back to Parliament over the summer. The Honourable Member for Charles-Bourgault-Saint-Charles. The Prime Minister is the only thing that's new in this government, because the rest of the government is an old government, and we're seeing the problems with this incompetent old government. We've learned today, Mr. Speaker, from the Auditor General, that the main subcontractor of Arrive scam got $64 million from this Liberal government, even if it was under investigation by the RCMP. GC Strategies is a company with just 2 employees. It got 106 contracts from 31 federal organizations for a total value of $92.7 million. Is that Liberal incompetence, or is it corruption, or is it both? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, last year, after an independent process, the government suspended that company for 7 years. It's done. It's over. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, sit down. It's a little complicated. The Prime Minister gave Canadians back money that they had not paid. So it's an advance for a sum of money that they will not pay back. So about $4 billion was distributed to Canadians a week before the election, but not a cent to Quebecers. Can the Prime Minister explain this to Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am proud that we cancelled the carbon tax. Quebec and British Columbia have their own systems. Our decision, including the decision on the last payment of the rebate, involves the rest of Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Well, it's completely illogical, Mr. Speaker. You pay back those who pay, not those who don't pay. But now that we know clearly that this has nothing to do with the carbon tax that was cancelled or that was criticized by the OECD, and we can understand that this money was a gift before the election and an injustice, does he recognize that the $3.7 billion that were given to Canadians have nothing to do with climate change? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Quebec, Mr. Speaker, Quebec didn't pay that consumer carbon tax. So it's not unjust, it's coherent that the rebate would continue one last time to allow an adjustment for families across Canada. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, I would be very happy to explain this because the carbon tax that applies in Quebec since 2013, I put it in place as Minister of the Environment. I'd be happy to explain that. The Prime Minister clearly is better with numbers than with facts. Will he compensate Quebecers for the $814 million that he owes them?
He is a good politician. That was a good zinger, but it was polite.
Mr. Speaker, as the Bloc leader has just said, he created Quebec's own carbon tax system. It was different, and it's different across the country, including British Columbia. Our approach is coherent, it's fair, it's done.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General has once again exposed Liberal incompetence, highlighting millions wasted on their good friends and favourite consultants, GC Strategies. Not only have the Liberals not clawed back one penny from this scam, every Trudeau minister with his fingerprints on the scandal has been promoted by this Prime Minister. And now the Liberals are planning an extra $26 billion of taxpayer money for their insider consultant friends. Now, how about spend less on your insider friends and invest more in clawing back the money from GC Strategies?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, I'll note that in March 2024, my department has terminated all contracts with GC Strategies and has revoked its security clearance so that it renders it ineligible for contracts that require that security clearance. But we went even further. The Office of Supplier Integrity last week determined that GC Strategies was ineligible for 7 years. This is a free, independent process, holding bad actors to account, working exactly as it should, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Ended years after they were exposed. Now, $64 million went to Liberal friends at GC Strategies. Rampant sole sourcing of contracts with no justification and projects paid for despite no work being done. Incompetence is so ingrained in this government, they've actually ordered officials to put in writing that they're not violating procurement rules when they're granting contracts. Now the Liberals want $26 billion more for these consultants. When will the Liberals turn off the taps to their friends and focus instead on clawing back the money from this fraudulent GC Strategies?
The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation.
Speaker, and I want to thank the Auditor General for her report and highlight that we have acted on previous reports by the Auditor General, and also from internal audits to increase transparency, increase data collection, increase oversight. But also note, Mr. Speaker, that last year my department has terminated all contracts with GC Strategies, has revoked its security clearance, and as of last week, the Office of Supplier Integrity has rendered a decision making GC Strategy ineligible for contracts for 7 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Calgary, Midnapore.
If you're spending $64 million on a product, you would probably think to at least do some price comparisons. Yet the Liberal government did no such thing. The Auditor General said that in 82% of GC Strategies contracts examined, there was no evidence that fees were being charged by this two-person company were based on a fair market value. Is this the Prime Minister's idea of a new fiscal discipline? Or does price really not matter to Liberals when it comes to paying their well-connected friends? When will we get our money back?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, let me be absolutely clear. Misconduct of any kind in the procurement process is never acceptable, which is why we've acted on previous recommendations from the Auditor General. And as of last year, GC Strategies has seen its contracts terminated by the Government of Canada, and we've revoked their security clearance. Now we went even further. The Office of Supplier Integrity has rendered a decision making GC Strategy ineligible for 7 years, Mr. Speaker. This is a process that's free and independent, holding bad actors to account, and it is working as it should. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Calgary, Midnapore.
check for fair market value, Canadians could hope that at least we got something in return for $64 million. Not the case here. This is how Liberals are spending your money. Overpaid and nothing to show for it. The Auditor General said only 54% of contracts audited could prove deliverables were received. Is this the Prime Minister's new fiscal discipline? Or for Liberals, is it business as usual? When will we get our money back?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation and...
As I've highlighted in previous answers, in March 2024, PSPC has terminated all contracts with GC Strategies. We revoked their security clearance. Now, the Office of Supplier Integrity, which we've put in place after a thorough investigation, determined that GC Strategies met the threshold to be found ineligible for government contracts. As such, they are ineligible for the next 7 years. This is a process to hold bad actors accountable because we will never accept and tolerate misconduct in the procurement process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Provencher.
Mr. Speaker, money doesn't grow on trees, but it sure seems to grow in the coffers of Liberal government insiders and contractors. Today we learned through the Auditor General's blistering report that 31 service procurement contracts had been awarded to GC Strategies for $92 million. Wow. The ministers didn't enforce security, the ministers didn't monitor contracts, and they didn't follow proper procurement policies. But guess what, Mr. Speaker? These same Trudeau ministers are in today's cabinet. Who is running that circus over there, and when will the Canadian taxpayer get their money back?
Right. The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, following a thorough investigation by the Officer of Supplier Integrity, last week a determination was made that GC Strategies should be ineligible for the next 7 years. This is a free and independent process we've put in place to hold bad actors to account, and it is working exactly as it should. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Well, it's clear, Mr. Speaker, a Liberal is a scandal, Mr. Speaker. The Auditor General was very clear this morning in her report on GC Strategies, the Liberal ArriveCan app. This company, 2 people, $64 million in payments from the Liberals. The report reveals that we don't know who did the work, what was done, were the people who did the work qualified to do the work, and did they have the security clearance to do it? We don't know. And the ministers who allowed this, well, they all got promotions, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberal Prime Minister get the money back that his government took from every Canadian's pocket? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In March 2024, PSPC ended all contracts with GC Strategies. We revoked the company's security clearance. They are ineligible for any government contract that requires security, and that was already the case. But last week, the government rendered a decision which makes GC Strategies inadmissible for any government contract for the next 7 years. This is an independent process that's working exactly the way that it should. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, GC Strategies didn't force the government to pay it $64 million. $64 million for an application that didn't work, that wasn't safe, which cost a lot more than expected. The ministers who authorized that spending are either members of the cabinet or in the Prime Minister's inner circle. Marco Mendicino, who's now the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff and a former public safety minister. The former minister who's now the Labour minister. A scandal, a promotion. Is that how it works in Liberal world, Mr. Speaker? When will any of these ministers be declared ineligible? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear. We will never accept any misbehavior from our providers. In March 2024, PSPC ended all contracts with GC Strategies and took away its security clearance. And last year, an independent board ensured that GC Strategies will be ineligible for any government contract for the next 7 years. This is a process that we put in place to make sure that any supplier do the work properly. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe, Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, if Ottawa is reinvesting in defence, that money needs to go into Quebec's economy. It needs to go to our aerospace sector, to our shipbuilding sector, to our AI sector, among others. We need to hire Quebec's suppliers instead of giving our money to the Americans, as we did with the F-35s. That's why the Bloc Québécois is proposing a bill for local purchasing to promote our businesses and make sure that there are economic benefits here. So the government's going to reinvest in the government. Will they follow the Bloc's lead? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, we are proud to support Canadians and the Canadian Armed Forces. We will meet the 2% goal set by NATO, and that is also an investment in our defence industry here in Canada. There are about 300,000 jobs in Canada linked to the defence sector, and this investment will allow us to increase that number. We will obviously do what it takes for our Canadian Armed Forces. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe Bagot-Acton. Mr. Speaker, over 60% of aerospace in Canada is in Quebec, and that needs to be reflected in the contracts. Expertise in icebreakers, well, it's Quebec's shipbuilding industry that has it, and let's remember that Quebec didn't get its fair share in the shipbuilding strategy. AI is another strength in Quebec. That also needs to be reflected in the contracts. Quebec deserves at least 22% of all defense investments, its fair share. But will the Minister commit to making that a floor for investment in Quebec? The Honourable Minister of National Defence. Mr. Speaker, this is good news for Canada, for Canadians, and for our Canadian Armed Forces. Yesterday, the Prime Minister announced an investment of $9.3 billion in Canada's defence. This means that we will hit this fiscal year the 2% target set by NATO. We are strengthening Canada's role as an international partner that is strong and reliable within NATO while rebuilding and rearming our Canadian Armed Forces.
Member for Thornhill.
The Auditor General's new report on housing shows just how badly this government has failed Canadians. Since 2018, the government spent over $300 million to fund a new bureaucracy called the Federal Lands Initiative. It built 309 units. That's less than 50 units a year. That's over $1 million a unit. Now the Prime Minister says he's going to create another bureaucracy to do exactly the same thing. So how much more Canadians' money will be flushed down the drain to pay for bureaucracies rather than paying for building homes?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Auditor General for her report regarding office space and federal lands, and I'll note that we accept all recommendations, but I also know that she highlights that progress has been made, and we're on the way to meeting our objectives in terms of affordable housings on public lands, on federal lands, and this is very good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Speaker, when you accept the findings and you do the exact same thing, Canadians who need a place to live are the ones that end up paying the price. The Federal Lands Initiative, the crown jewel of the government's agenda on building housing, has attained just 7% of its target. Wow. And the people in charge of that initiative are the now Justice Minister and the now Finance Minister. Wow. They actually got promoted. In the real world, incompetence of this magnitude has consequences. So I have a simple question. Which one of them's getting fired?
Yeah! The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm new to this place and thankful for the opportunity to be here. This new government is focused on moving forward and building affordable housing, using the federal lands that we can make available and partnering in good faith with mayors, with premiers, with chiefs, working in partnership and in synergy with all levels of government, leveraging federal lands. We will do that.
The Honourable Member for Bowmanville, Oshawa North.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals have spent over $300 million on a housing program, claiming they would build 4,000 units. In 7 years, they built 309. To put it bluntly, that's not close at all. They've missed the mark by 93%. So the question I have for the Prime Minister is, how can he continue to have the minister responsible for this failure in his cabinet? And how can he promote that failed minister to now be our Minister of Justice?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Honourable Speaker, we have a great opportunity here to build housing, and when you look at the pathetic performance of Housing Minister Pierre Poilievre, who delivered six affordable housing units. 6 in 1 year.
Great point.
and 0 in the city of Vancouver, where I was serving.
Yeah,
0.
that's right.
That's a record that is deplorable, and that's a record that this government will never repeat. We are focused on building big.
The honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
On Vancouver Island, high prices are pushing thousands of families and seniors out of the housing market. Meanwhile, the Auditor General says government is sitting on empty office buildings and surplus land. They promised 4,000 homes through their signature housing initiative. After 7 years, they've delivered a measly 309. For this failure, the housing minister has been promoted to the justice portfolio. There's no justice in that, Mr. Speaker. How can the Prime Minister reward such failure while people in my riding are struggling to find a place to live?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I'm very honored to be here as the new Housing and Infrastructure Minister and to go forward with initiatives that will deliver affordable housing across Canada. And we will look for the support of the members opposite. We will look for partnerships with all levels of government to deliver that. We use all of the tools of the federal government to deliver with Build Canada Homes. We have a lot of opportunities ahead of us. We've got to stay focused and working together.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Échemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, in 2017, the government found that 50% of federal offices were vacant or underutilised. The Liberals said they would cut that number in half to create housing. 8 years later, the Auditor General has confirmed a less than 2% reduction. None of the 10 properties promised in the capital have been transferred, and barely 309 of the 4,000 housing units have been built. Once again, big talk, but absolutely no walk. Why is the Liberal government failing to deliver, even when the need is so great and the money has already been budgeted? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the Auditor General for her report, and we accept all of the recommendations therein to make sure that we meet our objectives when it comes to federal spaces and rental spaces. In the report, however, she also clearly maintains that we are on target for affordable housing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Dartmouth, Cole Harbour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, more than ever, it's critical to invest in Canadian industry as we rebuild Canada's national defence capabilities. For example, in my riding, Cove is leading the way in creating solutions and sustainable growth for Canada's marine and maritime sectors.
Good stuff.
Can the Minister please expand on the government's plan to rebuild, reinvest in, and rearm our Canadian armed forces?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Speaker, yesterday this government announced a generational $9.3 billion investment in Canada's national defence. This means that we will reach NATO's 2% spending target this fiscal year, Mr. Speaker. Reaching NATO's 2% target also means rebuilding our defence industrial capacity here at home and in Nova Scotia. There are almost 300,000 jobs across Canada in the broader defence sector, and this investment will grow that number. We will ensure Canada remains strong, sovereign, and secure, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, we know how things work on the other side. Incompetence is rewarded. Today's Auditor General report reveals that the budget for our F-35s is 50% higher than expected. Initially, the project costs presented in 2022 by National Defence were based on 2019 data. In addition, the construction of infrastructure for the F-35s in Bagotville and Cold Lake is now 3 years behind schedule. Why are the Liberals unable to meet deadlines and stop cost overruns? The Honourable Minister for National Defence. Mr. Speaker, we'd like to thank the Auditor General for her work. In such a big project, it's normal for prices to evolve over time, especially with all the challenges that we have had to deal with through inflation and during the pandemic. National Defence and the government are working hand in hand with industry. These are very significant investments, the biggest investment in over 30 years. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, it's difficult for me to find the words to describe how badly the purchase of our F-35s has been managed. The costs are skyrocketing, now reaching almost $30 billion. There's a shortage of pilots and technicians, and we've been talking about this since 2018. Construction of facilities is behind schedule, with completion now expected in 2031. Mr. Speaker, this government is always late. Is it ready or is it incompetent? The Honourable Minister for National Defence. Mr. Speaker, we'd like to thank the Auditor General once again for her work and recommendations. We are committed to being open and transparent. National Defence will inform Canadians at every step of this process without compromising operational security. National Defence is keeping a close eye on costs and is working hand in hand with industry to make sure that we get the best cost for Canadians.
For Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General has reported that the cost of the F-35 jets has increased by billions, by almost 50%. I have a simple question. Are these increased costs included in the Prime Minister's recently announced plan to meet NATO's 2% target by April 1st of next year?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, we thank the Auditor General for her work. In a project this big, it's normal for costs to fluctuate over time, especially with all the challenges faced during the pandemic, like supply chain disruptions and inflation, as many F-35 participating NATO members have actually experienced. National Defence is working hand in hand with industry to make sure we get good value for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we are making the biggest investment in the Royal Canadian Air Force in over 30 years. This is about giving our aviators the tools they need to keep Canada safe.
Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, Finland is also undertaking this big project. They announced their purchase of F-35 jets around the same time Canada did in early 2022. Finland purchased 64 jets, Canada 88. The Auditor General has reported that facilities and training for the F-35s are years behind schedule. The Finns F-35s will achieve full operational capability in 2030. This government won't achieve that until at least 2033, 34 years behind the Finns. Why can't the government deliver these jets on time and on budget?
Right. The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, once again, we thank the Auditor General for her work and her recommendations. We're taking close note of them and moving to implement many of them already. We're committed to being open and transparent, where National Defence will keep Canadians updated every step of the way without compromising operational security. I'm sure the member doesn't imply that we should be doing so. National Defence is keeping a close eye on costs, working hand in hand with industry to make sure we get the best value for Canadians. We remain focused, Mr. Speaker, on supporting our top Canadian aviators as we procure a new fleet of fighter jets.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Today's Auditor General reports reveals the shocking contempt that this Liberal government has for matters of national security. They can't demonstrate that security clearances were held by 50% of the contracts that they awarded to GC Strategies. And in more than 20% of the cases, contractors were working without the required clearances. They didn't check before the work began. They don't know if the work got done. There weren't security clearances for the workers, but they cut the checks anyway. And then this Prime Minister gave the ministers responsible a promotion. So through you, Speaker, will the Prime Minister stand up today and tell us when we get our money back?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I noted in previous answers, in March 2024, PSPC revoked the security clearance of GC Strategies. We've also terminated all contracts because we will always hold bad actors to account. And last week, the Office of Supplier Integrity rendered a decision making GC Strategy ineligible for the next 7 years. This is a process that is independent, that is free of political intervention, to hold bad actors to account, and it is working exactly as it should.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Well, I'm glad the Minister knows that that's working exactly as it should, because they don't know that about any of the work GC Strategies did. $100 million, no deliverables can be proven, no security clearances were had, and the Minister's talking about them not doing work in the future. Fine. What we want to know is about the work they didn't do in the past that Canadians paid $100 million for. So, to the Minister, through you, Speaker, stand up, tell us what date are Canadians getting their $100 million back, when?
L'honorable ministre de la Transformation du gouvernement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Auditor General for her report. As I've mentioned earlier, the Office of Supplier Integrity has rendered a decision last week making GC Strategy ineligible for future contracts by the Government of Canada. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, these Liberals handed $20 million taxpayer dollars to GC Strategies for their Arrive scam. This for a company that did no work, whose office was raided by the RCMP and is implicated in fraud. And today we learn from the Auditor General that millions more went to GC Strategies without any proof that work was done. This is absolutely outrageous. When can taxpayers expect a refund?
When? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the Auditor General for her report, and we've acted on all recommendations she's made in previous reports as well as internal audits. And as I've noted earlier, the Office of Supplier Integrity last week made a decision to make GC Strategy ineligible for future contracts for a period of 7 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good answer. Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General found no proof of work for a staggering 46% of contracts awarded to GC Strategies.
Wow.
And yet, these Liberals consistently authorized payment. Millions of taxpayer dollars went improperly out the door without any meaningful oversight. So, who over there is going to stand up, take responsibility, and get taxpayers their money back?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've noted, we've acted on all recommendations by the Auditor General in previous report. I thank her for her work. We will always hold bad actors to account. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, last week the Office of Supplier Integrity made a decision to make GC Strategy ineligible for future contracts for a period of 7 years. This is a process that's working as it should. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
$64.5 million. That's how much taxpayer money this Liberal government gifted their friends over at the top Arrive scam contractor. Friends, Mr. Speaker, who are now under RCMP investigation. Yet the Trudeau ministers responsible for this scandal, far from being held accountable, have actually been promoted to the Ministers of U.S. Trade, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the Minister of Jobs. So my question to the Prime Minister is, when will there be some actual accountability for the millions of dollars in fraud, and when will the hardworking men and women of this country get their money back?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Mr. Speaker, and let me be very clear, misconduct of any kind by suppliers is never acceptable, and we will always hold bad actors to account. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, the Office of Supplier Integrity last week made a decision making GC Strategy ineligible for contracts for a period of 7 years. We've also terminated in March 2024 all contracts with GC Strategies, revoked their security clearance. We will always hold bad actors to account. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, Quebec operates its own carbon pricing system, which has proved effective in reducing pollution. Today, the Bloc Québécois is asking the federal government for a refund, even though Quebec had decided not to participate in the federal carbon pricing system. So essentially, the Bloc Québécois is asking for its cake and to eat it too. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister for Environment and Climate Change tell the Bloc the truth? The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change. The carbon pricing rebate has been in place for many years. Quebec has its own carbon pricing system, and the federal fuel charge does not apply in Quebec. Therefore, Quebecers did not receive the Canadian carbon rebate. We respect Quebec and have been consistent on this issue. The Bloc Québécois should support our efforts to fight climate change and protect our environment, rather than just playing petty politics.
Honourable Member for Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
The Auditor
General tabled a scathing report today on how the Liberals paid GC Strategies, which is now under RCMP investigation, $64 million. In 46% of the contracts reviewed, federal organizations had little to no evidence of receiving deliverables, yet government officials continued to pay. Given the ministers responsible have yet to get the money back from these fraudsters, how did they get promoted into this Prime Minister's cabinet?
The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation.
I thank the Auditor General for her report, and for previous reports she's made on this matter. We've acted on all of her recommendations to increase accountability, transparency, data collection, and to clarify the rules, the roles, and the responsibilities. And let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker, we will always hold bad actors to account. As a matter of fact, we've revoked the security clearance of GC Strategies. The Office of Supplier Integrity has acted on GC Strategies. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
$64 million in fraudulent spending on GC Strategies and not a cent returned. Today's Auditor General reports have slammed this government. The F-35s are 50% over budget, up from $19 billion to nearly $30 billion, with more increases expected. Millions spent on transforming office space into housing and no homes built. Why, under this Liberal government, are Canadians spending so much and getting so little?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Par rapport aux espaces.
Thank you. With regards to the office space, I would like to thank the Auditor General, and we accept all the recommendations that she has submitted to the government. I would like to note that in her report she notes that we are on track to meet our affordable housing goals.
Today's Auditor General report show the true extent of Liberal incompetence and waste. Taxpayers are on the hook for $14 billion in F-35 fighter jet overruns. And the Arrive Scam report confirms that a two-person firm received $64 million in contracts for little to no work, and $0 have been returned to the taxpayer. And what does this Prime Minister do? He promotes the very ministers responsible for these scandals into his own cabinet. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, U.S. Trade, and the Minister of Jobs as well. If he's rewarding these failed ministers, how can Canadians respect receiving a penny of the money back?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Speaker, because the member mentioned the Canadian Armed Forces, this government is proud to champion the outstanding work of the women and men of the Canadian Armed Forces. Last month, our forces were deployed on Operation Carib, where they successfully conducted seizures of more than 1,300 kilograms of cocaine in the Caribbean Sea. This month, our forces have been deployed across Canada on Operation Lentus to evacuate Canadians from dangerous wildfires, and that work continues in Sandy Lake today. The contributions of our brave forces at home and around the world are simply and incredibly remarkable, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Scarborough, Agincourt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right now, trade diversification is top of mind for many of the small businesses in Scarborough, Agincourt, and also for Canadians across the country. Our new Minister of International Trade has already met with counterparts and business partners in South America and Europe. Can the Minister of International Trade tell us how he plans to diversify Canada's trade portfolio in the current geopolitical climate?
The Honourable Minister for International Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from Scarborough Agincourt for her tireless advocacy. Mr. Speaker, I've hit the ground running. A couple weeks ago, I was in Ecuador meeting with regional leaders and marking the conclusion of a new trade agreement that's to come. Last week, I was in Paris meeting with a dozen trade ministers to talk trade and economic opportunities. Mr. Speaker, Canada has what the world needs. I will continue working with industry leaders to discuss opportunities around the Indo-Pacific, European Union, and many regions around the world. Mr. Speaker, trade diversification will help create jobs here at home and help build the fastest growing economy in the G7. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, the Arrive Scam contractors made off with $64 million of taxpayer dollars. Multiple software developers in Waterloo region have told me that a couple of them could have done it over a weekend. The contractors didn't write any code. Their only job was to make sure the actual code writers had the proper security clearances. But today, the Auditor General tells us they didn't even manage to do that. Meanwhile, the F-35 program is 50% over budget. That's $14 billion over budget, and we still don't have any jets. Could the Prime Minister perhaps produce a budget accounting for all of this? Could that budget perhaps include less fraud and waste?
The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. I would also like to thank the Auditor General for her work and her recommendations. We've acted upon previous reports to make sure there's more accountability and transparency from our providers, because we'll always hold them to account. And so, Mr. Speaker, my department in March 2024 revoked GC Strategy's clearance, ended all contracts, and last week the company has been deemed inadmissible for 7 years. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister keeps saying that he won't be able to impose a pipeline without the agreement of the provinces. The problem is that his Bill C5 does not say that at all. In fact, it says quite the opposite. In fact, once a project is deemed to be in the national interest, it's over. It's over. Game over. Neither the provinces, nor the First Nations, nor Canadians, nor Quebecers, nor cities will be able to stop it. It will happen, whatever the cost, and it will take 2 years at most. That's a huge gift for big companies. Why does the Prime Minister, who was elected to prevent the Conservatives from winning, think it's a good idea to realise Pierre Poilievre's wildest and most dangerous dreams? The Honourable Minister for Transport and Domestic Trade. Mr. Speaker, 1 week ago I was in Saskatoon with the Prime Minister and the Premiers of provinces and territories, including the Premier of Quebec. Every single Premier talked about the need to build significant projects throughout Canada. For example, the projects in Montreal. I spoke about my Montreal projects with Minister Guilbeault of Quebec. We have to build Canada, and we must do so together.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians were shocked to learn that Indian Prime Minister Modi has been invited to the G7 meetings here. This is deeply troubling and hurtful for the Sikh community and for all Canadians that are concerned about human rights and foreign interference. And now we find out that the Saudi leader has also been invited. This G7 is becoming, honestly, it's becoming a showcase of tyrants. Will this Prime Minister rescind those invitations and make sure that the people coming to this G7 believe in human rights and believe in people, not profits?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and I have spoken with our Indian counterparts, and there has been an agreement for continued law enforcement dialogue. I will say, Mr. Speaker, that the G7 is a critical forum for global leaders to have productive and frank discussions. The RCMP's independent investigation is ongoing, and in this country, the rule of law will never be compromised. We will always stand up for the safety and security of Canadians. Thank you.
And that brings question period to a close.
There's no poos today. No points of order. Well, that ended pretty good. She was saying, hey, basically, we're really. It seems that, hey, and it is what it is. I'm not making a judgment on this. The Liberals are all about the investor class. So Saudi Arabia has invested much heavily in Canada. It's invested in removing our oil industry too, with the counter oil, because but all kinds of things, and that's maybe reputed too. The previous thing with the previous Prime Minister stood up in this House for has not been resolved. The RCMP are not. I don't see that going anywhere, to be honest. It's basically, hopefully they sort it out. Honestly, I don't think. I think basically it's that whole subject is a wash. It's over, and we don't have an answer. right? Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Maybe moving forward we have better relations with our spy people and their spy people and so on and so forth. But I honestly don't. Does anyone expect any different? I don't know. Let's just hide my coffee here. My couch. Okay, so this is basically that was the question. I'm not. The answer is they're going to be. They're still looking into it. The G7 meeting. India is a huge player, and the new world going forward. We've obfuscated a lot of our manufacturing to the countries like that. So call centers and stuff like that. It started, but now there's major manufacturing, and everyone thinks that India is what it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's what it's in a lot of people's minds. They have parts of their cities that are well more advanced than ours. Well more advanced, way more modern. Not just a little bit, way more modern. There's a place called Goa. It's along the beach, very Portuguese. A lot of Portuguese, they landed there. And along the water, it's just beautiful. I recommend you Google it, GOA. It's a beautiful place, very ultra-modern hotels and investment. Should have invested there. I had an opportunity to, and I really should have because it's quadrupled in price, and it went from, the spaced out, and now it's pretty much full of resort-type places, just beautiful sand, beautiful weather, obviously. And there's the new highway, which is along the water, and then they call it the old road, the old highway, which has got temples and the old temples and things like that of the local culture. But the new highway is more European in a lot of ways. Of course, it's changed. A lot of Indians invested there, but it's not it's not like Europeans running around there anymore. It used to be that way apparently. But it's very as the more wealth has grown in the country, right? There was an investment place, and Europeans would invest there before. Beautiful though. It's basically a resort, and they've grown. I always wondered, there's more opportunity for Indians in India than there is really in Canada in the last decade. It's surprising to see people still emigrating from there, to be honest. That country, at least, maybe, the neighboring countries, Pakistan isn't so economically booming, but Bangladesh, same thing, they're having issues and stuff like that. But India it's a growing economy, tenfold a year. And like I said, ultra modern, a wonderful place to invest. So I think that's where the government is going, as I digress. They're going into that, concerned more about it's about investment, right? It's about the investment in the country, and it's about having things like that in our country, money to build the projects instead of using government money or Canadian investment, which most of our banks and stuff like that, I don't know about most, but a lot of our investment from Canada is going outside the country. So we're trying to get investment from outside. It's a global world nowadays. It's not the same. And not to digress.